That's why you should never try. Just in life. Try something fancy, it'll just ruin things.
Just give up.
Yeah. Just give up. You'll never fail if you never try.
What we've learned from 2020 is to just give up. There's really no point.
Yeah. And then that's why we ended up so good.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Well, I think the first order of business is there's something I've actually been meaning to ask you for a long time. How was the McRib?
Oh, me or Carlin?
You.
Oh, I mean, it was fine. Like, it was way too much. After like 2 bites, I'm like, okay, like I think I'm done. But that's usually how I feel about McDonald's, because the only thing that I can finish there without hating myself at the end of it is like a Happy Meal. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I get like a little toy at the end. I'm like, ah.
That is cute. A little reward for your efforts. That's nice.
Yeah. No, but it was way too much. The barbecue sauce was, I don't know, like it's McDonald's, so it's like never calibrated to be like truly disgusting. But you just can't have that much of it.
They make sure.
I still don't get the hype.
It is kind of like baseline. There's no way it's not disgusting, but the taste, they mask it very well with, whatever contraptions they have back there to create the sauce. Because is it even a rib? Like, it's a McRib, but is it even a rib?
No, it was like a compressed like meat patty. Right?
It's got the aesthetics of a rib. Like, you look at it, you're like, yes, rib. But then you bite into it and you're like, this is like that stuff that like fills up hot dogs, but they just like painted it with a little McRib tattoo or something. It really is what it looked like. And mine, I got one. Yeah. What was it the other day? And it was like just covered in barbecue sauce.
Yeah. That was way too much.
Disgusting.
I feel like y'all are dissing contemporary Americana. Like, that is such an integral part of our culture now. There was actually, like, when it came out, like what, a month and a half ago, there was a great Twitter conversation going on with like ex-McDonald's employees talking about like why it's such a bitch to prepare. So like that's a huge reason to like why it only comes out for like a month, like every year or every other year.
I feel bad. I shouldn't have ordered it.
They have to hire like 10,000 more people, like they're building the pyramids or something.
Well, it's funny because it's like a logistical issue within the actual way the fryers and everything else is set up. Because the McRib itself, after they cook it, they were literally talking about having to have like the managers of these shifts come in and bring their own fucking home and like crock pots, and they just store the McRib. So they just store the McRibs after they cook them in these crock pots, and that barbecue sauce is supposed to be such a fucking ass to deal with, like in cleaning up stuff. So the workers themselves are very against the McRibs.
Oh, I feel bad. I shouldn't have ordered one. I feel like that customer that orders like the worst thing on the menu and they're like, fuck, why do we still have it?
Well, I mean, you blame McDonald's for that shit, because when this information gets out, the proletariat is just going to cancel the McRib. True.
Like, yeah. All right.
Like, proletarian struggle is abolishing the McRib now. I really think.
I feel like that would be the one thing that we could unite with like the rich white vegans on.
Yeah, this is like interclass solidarity behind making sure that the McRib is never eaten again. For sure, I like it, but I don't know. McRib out. We'll see what 2021 brings us. No more McRib. That is hilarious, though. They're bringing their own shit from home just to keep this going. Very sad. I already feel for the McDonald's workers.
Yeah.
Well, while we're recording, we are back. It's Eminem. What's up? What's good? It's almost Christmas. Happy holidays, folks. Just kidding. We're saying Merry Christmas again. In 2021, we are saying Merry Christmas again. It is Eminem. It's your boy. It's Fidel Cashtho, joined by Sigmund Fraud and Bay Guevara. We are here to bring you another fantastic episode. We went through our deep dive into philanthrocapitalism last week. Or no, I guess that was last month. I don't know, whenever that was. And now we're here to bring you a brand new, damn, son, where'd you find this? We're bringing you a brand new one. First of all, before we start, have either of you gotten the vaccine?
I'm getting mine on Sunday.
Sunday. Nice.
The first dose, yeah.
Very nice. Bay?
I have not.
Damn.
I don't have mine scheduled either. So
are you like, where are you in the hierarchy here? Are you just a little peasant boy? Are you a serf or are you?
No. I'm cleaning cow shit.
Okay. Damn. We got to get you into a more aristocratic position here. We can't bear to have you not be on the show. So we need you to get the vaccine.
Well, at least I feel connected to the masses. So I don't know. I kind of like my position.
Or maybe we just like put you up in like a little isolated cabin somewhere.
Like Bon Iver? Sweet, yeah.
Just electrified fence Vernon. So no one can come in.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna have you. Yeah, we're gonna have you grow your beard back out. You're too clean shaven. This is ridiculous. You gotta put on a big old floppy beanie that's too big for you, and we're gonna get you a nice cabin in like New Hampshire or somewhere.
Oh, I like
and you're gonna go write your album. And beyond that, we're just gonna keep you safe until June or whenever.
Probably or a 500-page manifesto while you grow your beard out, and then just like slowly lose your sanity.
Yeah, that's definitely more my style. Manifesto. I'm not really into, album making.
You could do both. Like you write the manifesto and then it becomes an album and it's like a whole audio-visual production.
Yeah, or the manifesto are just the lyrics and then you write the music to the manifesto.
Yeah. Fidel could probably help. Zoom in.
Think about it. I'm getting my vaccine Monday, I think. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have had it like last week, but I'm not really clinical right now. I'm just doing my research month. So I'm just, clacking from home, just typing on my shit. So I was like, well, why should I get the vaccine if like somebody else can have it? And I'm just like sitting on my ass at home doing nothing. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get it next week. And, hopefully I don't have an anaphylactic cataclysmic reaction and we can continue the podcast.
Wait, do you really want to go in? Because I've been seeing everyone do their like vaccine selfies. I want to go in, but with my face covered in googly eyes. Just because that's like, I'm going to do that for every holiday now.
Just walk in super serious.
Why reserve it for Halloween? I did it yesterday. I'm just going to do it all the time now.
You're right. That'd be very, very meta-modern of you. Just the most sincere form of irony possible. Just walk in, googly eyes all over your face, like, what's up? Let's do this. Just straight face. Yeah. I would love that. Cool. Well, vaccines are happening and kind of not happening at the same time. I actually saw something 2 days ago where there's apparently like 1 million vaccines just sitting around that haven't been used yet.
Where? I don't know. It.
I mean, like on brand for me. I just read the title. I didn't actually read the article. It happens too often for my liking, but it's something I'm working on. It's one of my vices. But I did see that, and I said, well, we do have an excellent infrastructure in this country, so I'm not surprised at all. So hopefully those vaccines get out to the people and aren't just sitting around in a negative 80 degrees Celsius fridge somewhere in Montana or whatever. We'll see.
I mean, all those like boutique concierge practices are trying to buy them.
Oh my God. I was listening to something about that the other day. It's so sickening. And maybe we should talk about concierge medicine in another episode. That would actually be a pretty decent one to go ahead and signal our distaste for, but maybe another time. For now, why don't we get into it? Why don't we begin our foray into what are we titling this? I'll come up with a title later, or we'll come up with a title later. But for now, let's call it The Haunting of Hahnemann.
Haunting of Hahnemann.
Yeah.
Is that like mixing metaphors though? Because like the specter of communism and we love ghosts.
Oh, I guess ghosts. It is. I literally just came up with it. I don't know. So sure. Okay. There's a specter haunting Hahnemann, the specter of private equity.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like way worse.
Yeah, way worse.
But I think this is a really important one to do because I feel like this was such a huge story in 2019, if we can even remember what that was like. And this is like just every resident's worst nightmare, right? Like if you can settle into a comfortable position and imagine yourself in this little guided meditation, like you're a fucking brand new intern, you just moved to the city, you maybe had a choice in where you went because of our match system. You have like $250,000 in loans that you're about to start paying back in a couple of months. You just signed a 12-month lease in the city. And you've been promised in April that your hospital is not going to close. And then it just closes. And then you're fucking out of luck. And not only that, your hospital like won't even release you from your contract and orphan you officially so you can like take up another position. And so like there's always obviously been like smaller closures and like residency programs that close, and they tended to be like smaller hospitals, rural hospitals, or like specialty residencies that maybe didn't match for a couple of years. And this was the biggest one that had ever happened. So I don't know if should I just keep going?
I'm listening. I mean,
okay.
I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm a feminist. I'm not going to interrupt a woman.
No, interrupt me. I don't want to just like monologue the whole time. So like, I need y'all to bring your like mansplaining energies today.
Oh, for sure. Okay. No problem. Let me brainstorm a couple of actually.
I consent to being interrupted. I just want to say that because that's
I have your consent.
Yes, exactly. But basically, Hahnemann University Hospital, that was the main teaching hospital at Drexel. They had almost 500 beds. They had 571 residents and fellows. And this included 132 new interns that had matched that year in 2019. So this planned closure was the largest layoff of residents in American history. And obviously it left, hundreds, I think 2,500 workers just without a job. Obviously doctors, nurses, PAs, all the techs, like EVS, everyone who goes into like making a hospital run. And then you had all of the medical students, all the nursing students, PA students who were training at Drexel, you were gone. Like you had no primary site to rotate through anymore. And the big story that came out of this was obviously that this was intentional mismanagement by a private equity firm. We all saw that piece of shit, Joel Freedman's picture going around.
Motherfucker.
And this guy like maybe single-handedly led to the closure of a major academic teaching hospital, which was also a safety net hospital for a lot of the Philly neighborhoods, and one of the oldest safety net hospitals in the country. But I mean,
it was doing mostly Medicaid, Medicare, and charity at that point, right?
Yeah. And they had been for years, which was why they were in such a terrible financial situation.
He's going to come back around too during COVID, which is very fun. He was a big name last year, and then COVID hit, and he said, "Hey, I haven't had enough of being a complete fucking freak." So we'll come to that in a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll come back to like how many ways Joel Freedman sucks, and I want everyone to Google his picture. And if you see him in public, I want everyone to admonish him.
Or Richard Spencer him. You could Richard Spencer him too if you want. You have our consent on M&M. Go ahead.
Yeah, in Minecraft. Because we would never advocate for violence towards people.
Never.
No, we're in the practice of healing.
Right.
I do want to say real quick, I've never been in a fight. Just real quick.
Really?
I've never been in a fight in my life ever. Oh my God. Okay. People are scared of it. Well, they're not scared of me, but I'm scared of them, and I've never been in a fight because I'm very very small, and I'm a pacifist in Minecraft. But anyways, that was me interrupting you for the
thank you
the male perspective. But go on ahead.
So, for all the horrible things that Joel Freedman personally has done to this hospital, it's literally just the tip of the iceberg in terms of private equity's role in healthcare. And the story of Hahnemann goes back a depressingly long time in terms of their decline.
Ooh,
take us back.
Sure.
Take us through. All right. Like, can you like put some like old timey music in the background and pose?
I'll make a note here. Old timey music. No problem.
So Hahnemann Medical School and Hospital first opens in 1845. It's named after Samuel Hahnemann, who's a founder of homeopathy. I didn't realize that, but it was one of the first homeopathic schools in the U.S. And the only thing I could really find on him that he wrote was that he wrote this like long screed against like effects of coffee and how terrible it is for you, and he makes it sound really cool. But then it becomes, established medical school. It moves into South Tower in 1928, and it becomes like the first skyscraper to house a teaching hospital. It becomes a major trauma center. It's the first level 1 trauma center in Philadelphia. And if you go on the Wikipedia page, you can see all the famous people that they've treated, all like the firsts in Pennsylvania or in Philadelphia in terms of like procedures that they've had. And once it's in the modern age, that's when the story becomes about finances. And I need Fidel to help me with the pronunciation. Is it Allegheny, or how do you say that?
Yeah, Allegheny.
Allegheny. Okay. So Allegheny General buys
don't you dare say Allegheny, or I will leave the podcast forever.
Okay. Is that like a popular mispronunciation?
It's more popular than you think, and I don't get it at all. Like who in their right mind would say Allegheny when they see that? But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Like Allegra?
I'm just being hateful. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't say Allegheny. It's Allegheny. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So I got it right the first time.
Yeah, you're so good.
And so they are starting to go into this massive expansion in the late 80s and 90s, and they buy up the Medical College of Pennsylvania, which had actually been the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. And they did that as a way to control Medicare and Medicaid expenditures, just because like the payments for that from the government had been decreasing. University of Pittsburgh supplied residents to rotate through Allegheny General, but they were still their major competitor. And they tried to actually buy a couple other medical schools or tried to pursue Carnegie Mellon to open a medical school, and these deals fell through. And the reason that they needed the medical residents aside was that they could pay them very little money. And I'm just going to quote this from the Post-Gazette. Allegheny General needed medical residents. They're the hospital's version of hamburger flippers and store clerks. That's how they see us. Nice.
I agree.
Solidarity with the McDonald's workers. We're right there with you.
Just bringing it back. If we can circle back. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Like y'all thought the McRib was just like a side piece to this story? No, like it's front and center.
Exactly. This is all of our collective unconscious just making these beautiful connections. Like the McRib. Like how they
melding
just join
into Nirvana. That's right.
Exactly. We're all in the crock pot together.
We're all covered in the McRib barbecue sauce right now together.
That is the ether that we swim in. So thanks to the government subsidies, which cover the cost of our training, they're low-wage worker bees. The only difference is that they provide high-wage care from the emergency room to the operating room. And by expanding clinical and basic science programs, Allegheny General could woo research dollars, high-priced talent, raising its status as an integrated healthcare provider that not only heals the sick, but develops new cures and methods of care.
I feel good to be referred to as a worker bee only because there's a big difference between us and the actual worker bees, which is at least we're not going extinct at an alarming rate, which is positive. I mean, there needs to be more of us, certainly, but, you know, we do make the honey. We make the honey, folks, and you need to realize that we're very important workers here. Because if you want to know how the sausage gets made at pretty much any hospital with residents, give yourself a little bit of credit. The hospital would not function without you, okay? Maybe you're not making the high-level decisions when it comes to like medical decision-making, but to facilitate the actual production of healthcare and medicine, the interns and a lot of the like lower-level residents, you're doing most of the work, right? You're writing all the notes, you're seeing the patients, you're pre-rounding, you're rounding, you're filling all the orders, you're doing everything. The attending is just like, you know, they're making the big decisions and stuff. There's, you know, this not unjustified hierarchy in some ways, but know that you are among the most important people among any healthcare system, any hospital.
Yeah. If you want an example of how important you are, just try to remember the last time you had to like duck out for an hour to go to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And how much of a fucking pain in the ass it was to try to arrange coverage. Because there just aren't enough of us. And if you're as unimportant as they want you to believe, like, why would it matter so much that you just can't take like half an hour off?
Yeah, why would I have to wring the charge anesthesiologist's arm 3 days before I need to get out for, like, you know, to get my oil changed or something? If you really didn't mean shit, like they want you to believe, yeah, they'd just be like, yeah, go do your thing. Who cares? But you are the person, you are the people who actually make this hospital function. Without you, nothing would actually get done.
Same with all the actual nurses who work on the floors, all the pharmacists, all the
Mhm.
techs, all the sitters, all the people who clean up the rooms after your patients. Like these are the people who are actually essential, not anyone like making the decisions. But anyway, I digress. So they were able to buy the Medical College of Philadelphia as a way to get medical residents, students, all this very, very cheap labor, because they were in a pretty terrible financial situation in the 80s and they were open to acquisition. And because both entities, Medical College of Philadelphia and Allegheny General, were nonprofits, there was very little oversight from the government in terms of like what this would mean. And then
that's a conversation for another day, but nonprofit hospitals,
yes,
and nonprofits in general, that whole industry, we'll come back to that, in a couple months, but
yeah,
gotta love it.
Teaser.
Absolutely. Yeah, little teaser.
And then this was not enough for Allegheny General, and they start looking into new deals with Hahnemann like 2 years after this. And then in 93, they ultimately joined the Allegheny Health Network and becomes the Allegheny University of Health Sciences. And Hahnemann University was like led to this deal because it and a lot of the other inner city teaching hospitals were, quote, beginning to feel the pinch that all urban medical centers were feeling. And it was because of, again, as I mentioned, the mounting restrictions on the payments for like caring for the poor, the Medicaid, Medicare populations, because the shift in the managed care insurers from like higher cost teaching hospitals. So
basically this means like, hey, we can't make money off of these people. So
yes.
Why should we pay to, I don't know, like provide them with sustenance to continue living a meaningful, healthy life?
Yeah. So instead of like, say, shifting the cost to say expand primary care and like primary care services and making that free, we're just going to say this is too expensive and just like start not paying for it.
But these are poor people. Like, who cares about them, right? Like, poor people don't matter in our society. So maybe it'd be better if they just get sicker and pass away, and then we can say, we're so sorry, we did everything we could. Yeah. And that's the society we live in.
Well, let's be honest, like there's a politics of cruelty that governs all of our decisions at a large scale societal level subconsciously, though. And we don't recognize it as that, right? I mean, we just fucking talked about philanthropy. So at the forefront of all of our minds is this idea that there's some amount of benevolence, magnanimity, etc., that it is just a general kindness and a thoughtfulness of America to care for their neighbors, right? Like we believe this myth so badly. But this kind of proves that it's not right because we live in this market-driven where economic logic is the imperative for everything that goes on. And when you do that, it is literally a zero-sum game with the poor coming out always at the end with nothing.
Right. And also like we as a society like end up shouldering that burden, right? Like just the private insurances can like just say they refuse to pay it. But if you end up in the ED, like we're going to pay for that care somehow.
I also just want to give a quick note on what nonprofit means. All it means is that they just don't pay like city and state tax. Honestly, they don't pay tax on like the land that they own. That I like, honestly, that is what nonprofit means when it comes to nonprofit hospitals, at least. There's supposed to be some understood benefit to the community where they do a little bit of charity work, people who don't have insurance, you just say no cost to you. This is a charity. This is charity from the hospital. But increasingly over the past, several decades, this is really not the case anymore. What all these nonprofit hospitals do in order to maintain their nonprofit status is the absolute bare minimum. And what you're seeing in a lot of cases are these nonprofit, giant conglomerates. All they do is, go out with a nice face that they're nonprofits trying to help people out in the community out in rural America. And all they do is just, wait till some of these rural hospitals go under. They buy them out. They fire half the staff and they reopen with a new name. And they say, we're helping out industrial workers in the agrarian South also. I mean, this is really what it means to run a nonprofit healthcare system, is to bend the rules to your advantage, to outcompete anybody around you.
And all of these are somehow real estate schemes. That's what I'm learning.
Well, in our financialized capitalist economy at this point, pretty much since the 1970s, neoliberal period, I mean, if you've probably heard of the fire sector, finance, insurance, real estate. That really is what our economy is driven on these days. It's not industry. It's not manufacturing. Growth from the industrial sector is pretty stagnant over the past few decades. And the only way that we're able to like be, quote, the richest country in the history of the world is to like do these financial maneuvers that, again, like the economists who are really just practicing astrology, they're just like making up new ways to, I don't know, I'm just going to make up words, securitize debt and assetify mortgage and loanify security debt mortgages of the interest usury pyramid scheme. That really is what finance is. I'm doing a finance because I'm making shit up, because that is exactly what they do. They move money around in this financialized system that doesn't create value. It just moves value around. And unfortunately, what actually creates wealth in this society is land, is real estate, but only in certain bubbles, which we know easily crash after certain periods of time.
Right. And guess where Hahnemann Hospital was?
Oh, no.
Hello. But, aside from the real estate, Ponzi scheme that it will become, Allegheny was also looking for kind of the prestige that they would get with a bigger array of clinical programs, like more students. They were hoping to start attracting more private research dollars because the government was, cutting back on spending. We got to balance that budget. And Hahnemann was like a good, quote, acquisition for them. They had a lot more clinical research than Medical College of Pennsylvania. The doctors had their own practices. It was quite busy. And at the time, they had more open heart surgeries than any other Philadelphia hospital, which is like kind of amazing for a safety net hospital, right? Like they're doing a lot of the needed, they're providing a lot of the needed clinical services for the city. So the year after they get bought by Allegheny, they merge to become MCP Hahnemann University, so MCPHU in 93. And this is while Allegheny is like continuing to buy up just more Philadelphia hospitals, tons of hospitals across the state. They take on millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. They issue bonds for the Philadelphia medical schools.
At this point, Allegheny is just on one. They're like infinite money. We're just buying as much shit as we can. Yeah. And we'll deal with the consequences later.
Yeah. And surprise, they kind of didn't have to. But they start acquiring like other hospital systems, like individual hospitals weren't enough. They issue another $120 million of bond debt in 97. And then the bubble is starting to shrink. So they have to close Mount Sinai Hospital, which lays off 500 workers, or it eliminates 500 jobs. And then they lay off 1,200 workers. And then they cut salaries like across the board. And then by 98, Allegheny is like truly collapsing because of all these wildly aggressive plans for expansion and just out of control spending. There's this like whole expose on the matter, and they really focus on the CEO at the time and just all of his like super expensive habits. So like he was asked by like the financial people to take, first class, but then he wanted a private jet, and they suggested like a small private jet, and he's like, no, I want a commercial one.
I want the big bitch.
Yeah,
he deserves it for sure.
Yeah, he worked so hard. He
used to flip burgers at McDonald's. He was the one making the McRibs at one point. He climbed that corporate ladder, and now he's got the private jet.
And he actually did. He actually started out as like a purchaser in like the cafeteria or like the food services department, and just, I'm sure with no nefarious things going on, was able to make it all the way up.
So an American success story. The American dream is alive, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. This guy did it, so why can't you?
Just perpetuates the mythology of bootstraps mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah. You too can put an entire hospital system into hundreds of millions of dollars in debt and then walk away with a private jet. Why not?
Is the American dream to lead to the loss of 3,000 jobs in like one fell swoop? Is that the American dream?
Yeah. Well, as long as you keep yours.
Right. Yeah. I got mine. I'm doing me. And now I have a heated pool in the back. and I got somebody to come get the leaves out. So
Right.
American dream.
Exactly. American dream is like what Joel Freedman will end up in. But we're still a couple years out from that. So anyway, 98, they're in a terrible situation. They're planning to sell 6 of its 9 Philly area hospitals to Vanguard Health System, which is it's a private for-profit company. I think they no longer exist, but that deal falls through. A bunch of the Philly area hospitals file for bankruptcy, and then Medical College of Pennsylvania, Hahnemann University, St. Christopher's, which is the children's hospital, and Warminster end up being acquired by Tenet. So because Tenet is also a private for-profit company, they can't technically take over the medical school part, so MCP, Hahnemann University. And then Tenet gets into an agreement with Drexel, where Drexel University will assume operation of the medical school, all the training programs there, and that allows them to take over Hahnemann University. And
by the way, this is extremely sick shit because, again, just because an entity is a nonprofit doesn't mean anything. Like if you look at profits from all kinds of nonprofits around the United States, they are many times more profitable than for-profit health systems. Just go take a look. I don't even have to mention it here, but just go look at it. So don't get confused here when you see nonprofit. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. And this is not to shit on Drexel, and I'm sure there's people, quote, hashtag not all doctors or not all administrators, right? Don't get too mad. But we just want you to see that when institutions, when universities, when these organizations acquire hospitals, like it's not always in this altruistic service mentality where they really just truly want to serve the community. There's a lot of financial arrangements and benefits for people who are making these deals.
And I mean, you have to remember, like, these places, once again, not benevolent associations. They have portfolios, like financial interests that actually govern their logical process for how they run and operate. Even though we associate like nonprofit hospitals, one of the big things we also like often think of when we think of these particular institutions are hospitals run with like through religious organizations like Catholic hospitals, etc. And that brings in a whole nother understanding for how they operate. So they aren't these simple, honest, anodyne places. There's deeper things here that kind of govern their thought process and how they run and operate.
Yeah, they're not these like cute little medieval nuns like run into you with the, like if you have a fever with the little wet cloth to like put on you, just these sisters of charity.
Yeah, no Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually picking your pocket, when you're at the vending machine. So be careful. These nuns are not, they're not your friends.
Give them a kick in the back too. Just
reject modernity, embrace tradition, go back to the nice nuns.
This is now a nuns podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do one on the history of nuns. That would be actually kind of interesting.
I'm writing it down.
Anyway, so after a couple of years of this tentative agreement of Drexel running MCP Hahnemann, the board of trustees vote to merge MCP Hahnemann into Drexel itself, and then for Drexel and Tenet to enter into a 20-year affiliation agreement for partnership between Drexel College of Medicine and then all of Tenet's teaching hospitals. And then Tenet actually becomes the single largest supplier of residency spots like in the country because they just own so many hospitals at this point. So here's a little foreboding quote from the then president of Drexel. "We have a bright future ahead of us as a result of the merger. Drexel has added the nation's largest private medical school, an outstanding college of nursing and health professions, and one of the only 2 public schools of health in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This, along with our complementary partnership with Tenet, positions at the university at the forefront of the movement in academic medicine to partner nonprofit educational institutions with for-profit hospital systems." Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. Sounds sus, but we'll find out.
Sounds sus. And if you think it sounds sus, you would be right, because some of Tenet Health scandals before and after this deal include psychiatric fraud, because they admitted thousands of patients who did not need psychiatric admissions in the 90s and charged thousands and thousands of dollars. They operated on 600 patients doing unnecessary heart surgery, and they had to pay a $54 million fine and almost $400 million in out-of-court settlements to 769 patients. They had Medicare fraud more recently. They paid $725 million and then gave up another $175 million in Medicare payments. So 900 million in total for overbilling Medicare claims in the 90s. And then they had to sell 11 of their hospitals to finance this deal. They didn't pay any taxes during 2008 to 2010, despite receiving $48 million in tax benefits with a profit of $415 million. I mean, imagine how much better it would be if they were a nonprofit. Just saying. And then in 2015, this is my favorite one. They were lobbying the governor of Florida to remove hospital standard rules for pediatric heart surgeries because one of their hospitals did not meet the standards and they could not bill for such services.
That's really good. Hey, like, I know we can't meet the standards, so why don't you just lower them and then everything will be fine. And like maybe surgeries will have like much worse outcomes, but
you don't know that.
We'll meet the standard.
Yeah.
That's what matters. It's the aesthetics. I mean, that's liberal political ideology, is meeting the aesthetic and not really following up on the actual material reality, which is, hey, maybe we should like up our standards to make sure that pediatric surgery is good. No, actually, let's just lower the standard and like hope nobody notices, and like hopefully things are the same.
Like, just imagine the kind of brain you have to have for you to think like these little kids, these adorable little children who need heart surgeries, like maybe you don't really deserve like that second time out to check your name bank, because like that is taking up a little bit too much OR time and we could pack another kid in here. Yeah.
By the way, on that tip of performing unneeded surgeries, guess what? This is happening pretty much everywhere, though. This is not unique to Hahnemann, MCP, anywhere like that. This happens every single day. This is not me like initiating a new conspiracy theory, but if you like are in the surgical realm enough time, you start to ask yourself questions like, what are we doing here? You know, you go talk to the patient in pre-op, and I mean, I'll give you a quick example. I was on my thoracic anesthesia rotation in April. This is like during COVID, and everybody's freaking out. Nobody really knows. They don't really have a lot of information on spread rates and like how infectious it is. And like, there's just not a lot of data, but you know, we're still burning through thoracic surgeries because they're mostly needed, you know, like these things need to go. They're not elective. But I remember consenting a 91-year-old patient who was literally like on death's door. He was getting a giant paraesophageal hernia repair. I'm talking to this guy, you know, wife's not there, no kids, nothing like that. Cause you know, it's COVID. Nobody else was allowed in the pre-op area. And I'm consenting this guy, hey, like, what's your medical history? Tell me about this. And he's like, he looks behind me. He's like, you know, somebody should really like keep an eye on that kid that's running around behind you. Mind you, this is not a children's hospital. There are no children anywhere in this hospital. I turn around, I'm like, sir, I don't think I see any children back there. He's like, oh, okay. I thought I saw something, but somebody should really keep an eye on him though. He's kind of running around and I'm a little nervous. And
he's like actively sundowning.
Sundowning at 6:45 in the morning, mind you. As I'm like trying to figure out, you know, okay, what do I expect for this case? My attendant comes over. I'm like, brother, we got an issue here. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? And the surgeon shows up. He's like, oh, you know, snip. This will be pretty quick. No problem. That case went for like 11 hours.
Oh my God.
And
holy shit.
Just to reiterate, this man is 91 years old with, you know, this is not to say that old people don't deserve care. Don't get me wrong. But there comes a time when we have to ask ourselves, does the quality of life post-op match up with this person's interests? And if this person, I don't know, doesn't even know where they are and is hallucinating young children running around the pre-op area, maybe we should think about not doing this and maybe finding an alternative. I don't know.
And also just like, it is not a benign procedure to like put you under general when you're that age, when you have that kind of comorbidities. And then like, what's going to happen? Like this guy, I would be shocked if he did not develop post-op delirium and like he didn't just, require.
I mean, this is the part of anesthesia care that, the continuity of care is not always there. You kind of drop them off in the ICU. I'm sorry, ICU nurses. I'm sorry, critical care people. Anesthesia, those fucking bastards. They cause atelectasis on transport. Those bitches. They don't turn the drips off like they should, or whatever else.
All the lines are a mess.
All the lines are a mess. It's just spaghetti in your face. I know, we're assholes. I do my best. I was in the cardiac ICU last year, and I learned a couple things like, hey, maybe I should be an asshole to these people who are, taking care of the post-op period where we're just like, all right, you guys good? Any questions? All right, we're gonna go. So, yeah.
When I did my anesthesia rotation as a 4th year after I had matched, and I knew I was just going to be a psychiatrist, like I really enjoyed just like making everything really pretty and like putting all the lines down like really like clean. You would have been good. That would have been the one joy. But then like if I were actually being a doctor and like managing somebody, I wouldn't have had time to do that. I probably would have been like,
you got to be a little bit OCD in anesthesia, not too much. I'm not OCD in like my like actual life, I guess. But you got to be a little bit.
You ate a McRib.
Yeah, see, I'm fucking wild outside of work. I'll do a fucking anything. Out. Yeah.
Well, what if Fidel was like a very completist kind of OCD where he just needed to try everything at McDonald's? You don't know that.
In my former life, I have eaten the triple Whopper. The old me did finish the triple Whopper in one sitting. This was like circa 2004, maybe. I don't know. So I have a past, and
legend.
Truly, like my biggest vice is awful fast food, and like shitty, awful gas station candy. We can get into that in another episode.
Yeah.
In the reunion docs, Fidel cashtho expose episode.
I think we should do one where we just talk about our favorite fast food chains, like preferably
Don't get me started.
Regional.
I'll go for an hour. Don't get me started.
Okay. Anyway.
I'm in Texas, so that means you're going to hear about Whataburger for like.
Oh my God.
Maybe 8 hours. You think In-N-Out fanboys or something? Man, fuck those dudes. Like, come to Texas where we have Whataburger. Like that shit.
I will say Whataburger is pretty fucking good. I'll give you.
I don't think I've had it.
You've had one? What? Seriously?
I was in Austin a couple years ago and I had it. I said, all right, I see the hype.
All right.
I did just have Shake Shack, which might be better though. Just a quick. I'm sorry. Shake Shack might be a little bit better.
It's all right.
I don't know. I live like down the street from one, but I feel like Cookout still has like the special place in my heart.
And Cookout has Cheerwine.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Cheerwine, folks.
Anyway.
Beautiful syrup. Immediate acute diabetic coma after Cheerwine. Don't sleep on Cheerwine. Anyways.
It's worth it. Anyway. So from 2002, from when they're first, when they merged, to 2017, Hahnemann is just hemorrhaging money. More and more of their patient population is Medicare, Medicaid, charity care, and something that we really shouldn't have to care about for a hospital that cares for a lot of like indigent people, a lot of like low SES people around the hospital itself. But they had a negative profit margin every year for those 14 years. And during this time, Tenet is divesting, closing a lot of the Allegheny Health Education and Research Foundation hospitals. And they ended up selling Hahnemann and St. Christopher's to American Academic Health System, which is a part of Paladin Healthcare, which is that company that Joel Freedman owns. And also on a fun note, they ended up acquiring Vanguard in 2013. So I guess it didn't matter if they didn't sell them or not.
Don't you love hearing this stuff like around like providing a human need like healthcare medicine, like, oh, this entity, like, and even the name, what was it, like American Health System,
American Academic Health System.
Like what is this? Are we at a bank? This subsidiary, like AAHS, which the subsidiary of Paladin, which also owns Tenet. It's like, what is this? We're talking about patients. We're talking about preserving human life here, and there's like we're talking about like shell companies and parent companies and their subsidiaries. Like, it's just disgusting. I don't know. When I hear that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and like it's a safety net hospital. Like, why does it fucking matter if it's losing money? And like, what does that even mean? Like, your mission should be to actually care for the community around you, who happen to be like some of the poorest like neighborhoods in Pennsylvania, or not in Pennsylvania, but in Philadelphia. Like, why is this being run as a business? It makes no sense.
But this is what happens when you try to run human need in a financial way, in a business sense. It's the same with every type of venture. You try to run education like a business, you get charter schools, which may or may not be good. Usually they're not very good. You try to run housing as a business. Oh, guess what? We get this monstrous real estate industry, right? You try to run childcare as a business. Oh, guess what? Like millions of people can't afford it. This is what happens when you try to commodify human needs. You cannot make it profitable without creating human suffering. And this goes for any human need you can think of, pretty much.
And because, sorry, go ahead.
No, the privatizing of social services and just basic social needs is a fundamental tenet, like, of the system that we interact with daily. That's all you're describing. It's simply put, commodifying needs, but it is this bedrock for how all of us come to even view these things no longer as needs, right? Think about how many of your residential colleagues, the nurses you see, how many of them have so deeply embedded within them, almost as if it's encoded in their DNA, this idea that hospital is forever connected to a business-like model.
Right. And because of the piecemeal nature of our health delivery system, because of all these like little random private entities, and then now these growing massive like hospital and health systems, like there's never a systemic or like structural incentive to provide things that are like actually really needed, like primary care. Like if we had like universal programs that like, you know, made sure everyone had like a decent, safe housing that didn't have fucking lead paint all over the walls that the kids are just eating. Then we could like actually like make more cost efficient choices as a society, right? But like that's just not the system that we have. And it's all these like individual players, these individual shareholders and their hospital boards making the most profit possible within a situation, which does not align with either the workers or the patient's interests.
That's the most important thing. They do, no matter what they tell you, no matter what you hear, they do not have the same interest as you. That's really the bottom line.
And so during this time, as they're hemorrhaging money, there actually was a very close like Hahnemann version 0.0 or 0.1. I don't know. Basically, before Hahnemann, there was the Medical College of Pennsylvania Hospital that got shut down in 2003. It would have been the largest group of residents to be orphaned if they didn't work out a deal between Drexel and Tenet and shuffling them around all the other Tenet hospitals. And there's some like kind of congratulatory articles that they were able to avoid this. But again, like the way that they talk about it in these contemporary news articles is really just residents as like funding slots. And we, like, no matter how well-trained we are, no matter how competent we are, no matter how caring, how many hours you put in, like, we are just commodities. Like any other worker who has their labor power to sell, to be bought and sold by these hospitals. Like, we are just providing a very low wage way for them to provide very high cost care. So when people were talking about Hahnemann as if it were like the canary in the coal mine, oh my gosh, this is what's happening with private equity, this could happen to you. Like it literally happened before. The canary died and then we just all stayed in there.
Canary dead. Yeah.
We did not get out of the mine.
This was supposed to be like a, this is like a once in a lifetime thing. Like, we can't believe this happened. Like, yeah, it already happened. Like not that long ago, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And so from January 2018 is when the sale of Hahnemann Hospital and St. Christopher's is actually finalized, and they send out a press release. So American Academic and get this, Harrison Street Real Estate Capital LLC, one of the largest real estate, dropping some like air horns there. one of the largest real estate investment firms dedicated to education, healthcare, storage sectors. Like, how do they all go together? Like a morgue? I don't know. Have entered into a strategic joint venture under which they have acquired a portfolio of 4 medical office buildings and a parking garage on the Hahnemann University Hospital campus and the parking facilities at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. American Academic has retained ownership of the hospital buildings, as well as one of the medical building offices and 2 parking facilities. And then we come to the part of the story that I think we know pretty well. From January 2018 through June 2019, AAHS goes through 4 CEOs at Hahnemann. Each stays a couple months. 175 nurses were laid off in April. And then as it became pretty clear that let's just say Joel Freedman. AAHS is like too wordy to say. Joel Freedman personally was planning to close Hahnemann Hospital. Drexel filed an unsuccessful lawsuit. There is an actual state law that says a hospital can't close without giving 90 days notice, because obviously people have medical problems and they need to like make sure that they can transition their care and figure out what under their hellish hospital like insurance plan, which doctor they can go see. But they just filed for bankruptcy and then closed within like half that time anyway. So
awesome.
It was awesome.
That's called business savvy.
That's right. And you know what's like even more savvy is the fact that the hospital real estate was separated from the operating businesses and was not included in the bankruptcy filing. So they were, just letting everybody know that they were really looking to profit off the land once the hospital closed. So a bankruptcy judge initially approved the sale of the GME slots to a bunch of academic institutions in the Philadelphia area. And then CMS appealed that decision. And they said, you can't just treat GME positions like assets. Interesting, because that's what they do.
It's exactly, yeah. This is literally exactly what they did.
Yeah. Well, but CMS's official stance was that treating GME trainee positions as assets to be bought and sold is a dangerous precedent to be set, since it attempts to bypass CMS's existing regulated process for distributing the slots.
Dangerous precedent. I mean, let's talk just briefly about labor power as a commodity, right? Residents, fellows like these people being sold off as assets, right? I mean, what else are we as workers, right? I mean, this is not to say they're correct in calling us this, but the fundamental reality is we are pawns in the game of, in this case, private equity, but on a more broad scale of the capitalist mode of production. These capitalists, these owners of means of production, in order to realize and valorize value created by labor, right? They own the capital, right? Let's just put it this way. They own the capital. Capital does not produce value on its own, right? A simple example, if you own a factory, that's great. But if you don't have anybody to work at the factory, it's kind of useless, right? So you need people, you need labor, you need people to work on capital in order to produce value, which goes to the owners in order for them to either reinvest those profits or maybe pocket it or put it in real estate or finance or whatever it is. So what does that leave us? Well, the only thing that we as workers have is our ability to work. That is labor power, right? The only commodity, let's say, that we have is our ability to work, because we don't own anything else. We can't sell anything but our ability to work. And that is just what this economic system produces, is people, very few people, who own basically everything. And then the rest of us who, in a very much Oliver Twist style, please, sir, can I have some work? While they, extract the value from our work. And we say, thank you very much for letting me work for you. That really is like the logic of this system, is we thank our oppressors for giving us work, these job creators, quote unquote. And that's something you really need to think about when it comes to your own value, is to these people, you are a cog in the machine, of course, we all know that, but your role is purely to create value for these people. They do not care about you at all. They don't even know who you are. because what these residents at Hahnemann, what they represent, they're barcodes, their names on a piece of paper, their assets, exactly, ready to be bought and sold at whoever's convenience. And you're worth more than that, like we were saying before. You are a huge reason why these hospitals are able to function in the first place. And of course, we're also we're including, nurses and all the hospital workers and everything else. But when it comes to the medicine portion of healthcare, you are what makes it work. You are what makes it happen. And the way that you're treated is basically like chattel at the end of the day. So think about that when you're thinking about your own value, because you do have value. You are valid, and we hear you and we see you. Okay. So please. Yeah. That touched my own heart, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
That's like a good holiday message of solidarity.
Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, y'all. So fast forward to the pandemic that's been fucking ravaging the country since March. Guess what they did?
Let's hear
it. So Joel Freedman tried to offer the city the use of this wonderful empty hospital, this wonderful empty historic hospital that he closed, quote, for fraction of the market value.
What was that fraction?
For $1 million a month, the city of Philadelphia could rent the hospital, not including any of the actual staff needed to, make it work in any way as a hospital, not including, I'm sure, all the fucking equipment that's already been, sold and bought by some other vulture. $1 million a month during this like worldwide pandemic.
Damn, bargain rates. Absolutely love. I keep thinking about Tobias from Arrested Development. Oh my God, we're having a fire sale. I just keep thinking about that over and over. God, you got to love a good bargain for the tune of $1 million a month.
A month.
That's pocket change for most of us. So Freeman's really doing a nice thing.
I mean, yeah, and then it didn't work. So in July, he actually put it up on sale on the real estate market.
He put it up on Zillow.
Yeah.
Hey, brand new, close to the train. Great view of the city from the hospital window. Yeah,
500 bedrooms of 600 bathrooms.
Right around the corner from bars, restaurants, hip neighborhood.
Oh yeah, they called it a generational opportunity, which I just
unbelievable.
Jesus, so cool. Fucking Christ.
Yeah, the byline says the properties provide a rare opportunity to make a dramatic real estate play in Center City.
Oh my God!
If that doesn't make you want to vomit, like I don't even know what to tell you anymore.
So fucking cool. Our world rocks. Love this timeline.
Yeah, this shit fucking rules, man. This is so good.
So that's where things are now. And like Joel Freedman is actually going to benefit from the, trillions of dollars in the stimulus because it retroactively lifts a cap on like property related depreciation. So he's going to be able to write all that off on his tax bill. So that's cool. And then
again, business savvy, folks.
Yeah.
Not a bad person.
He's going to pay less in taxes because he shut down a fucking safety net hospital.
Props to Mr. Freedman for getting this money. Wake up, cake up, baby, every day. The paper chase never ends. So shout out.
Yeah, shout out. So anyway, so that's the story of Hahnemann Hospital. And basically, I think what I want to impress on everyone is that it is not and will not be an isolated incident. The hundreds of residents who almost went through the exact same thing like 16, 15 years before Hahnemann University closed, that really wasn't a canary in the coal mine. We just all stayed down there and suffocated. And we're no different than the guy serving you the McRib or like any other cafeteria worker or any of the nurses. Like, we are labor power And that's where we should be organizing. And like the sooner we see actually the solidarity and all the other workers working in the hospital with you, and stop fucking identifying with like your nice boss who listens to maybe the same NPR programs as you, like the better.
Yeah, these are like bloodthirsty individuals, and we have nothing in common with them.
Yeah.
You know, there's like this mythology around, and I hate to keep bringing him up because then I'm thinking about the fan fiction again, but there's this mythology around Elon Musk that exists. I'm not going to bring it up again, but I'm just saying, like, you hear people who lionize this guy as like some like once in a generation visionary. This guy who, I mean, let's be honest here. He came from a family of South African, basically like diamond money in South Africa, right? He's not a self-made man. He runs this company that, you know, let's be honest, he hires these engineers, he hires these people to, you know, create these technological advances and then takes the credit for it. He creates media buzz, which he's very good at that. I'll give him that. He creates media buzz. But what does he like actually do for this, for Tesla or, you know, SpaceX? Or it's really just, he's really just a hype man at the end of the day, right? That's really all he does. And people like him, all these other, you know, like weakly myelinated individuals that we call the, you know, at the levers of power here, we have nothing in common with these people. We need to stop putting them on pedestals and saying, I want to be like them. We shouldn't want to be like any of them, because if you're going to be like them, that means you're going to lead to a lot of suffering in this world. We need to be organizing with people who are like us, with workers, with people who want to see society improve, not increase return on investment. That is what this is about. And you really need to stop. You need to stop shitting on people who are very much in your similar situation, other workers, which is very important. Like I was saying, maybe in a couple episodes ago or so, it's okay to be annoyed with people. You're going to be annoyed with people. That is fine. Yes. But you need to understand your relationship to production. You need to understand class, and you need to understand that these people are just like you. They are just as oppressed as you are. These nurses, these pharmacists, these hospital workers, all of these people, they're in the same boat as you.
Yeah. And just, if you've ever had to get a lecture on billing, like, you understand why profit just has no business in like healthcare, and how that leads to your life just being actively worse because you have to give a shit about all these things that make someone else money, that contribute nothing to your life, certainly nothing to their patient's life, and just makes everything 10 times worse.
The system is purposely complicated. From the policy side of things, a great anecdote for me is one of the vice presidents of a public policy department that I previously worked for. Outside of the policy work we did for the hospital, we're human beings. She had a son who was autistic and had various other needs associated with that. And she herself could not figure out a damn thing in regards to the insurance work that was required just to get her son care. And it'd be funny because these would be issues that we would literally be working on at a state or federal level. And then it'd come right back down to the personal level, and we couldn't figure out shit in order to how to just get him care. And this is someone that's already making good money. This is someone that has decent health insurance. And if that is the case, and the system is so set up where the very people that you will have in departments that are supposed to understand policy and the technicalities of all these things like billing and how billing works, and we can't even figure this shit out on our own, like in our own personal lives, it has no association or connection with healthcare itself. It has no business being in this body whatsoever.
Are we finished?
I think so. I mean, I hope this is a good like jumping off point into the broader trend of private equity and like its increasing grasp over like the entire American healthcare system. Because I think there's a lot more juicy discussions to be had.
Certainly. We're trying to keep this one shorter. We always end up recording for like fucking 2 hours. So I think this would be, a pretty nice place to wrap up, and also mention that we are planning to do an episode on private equity itself. This is kind of a case study, which
an M&M, if you will.
An M&M. Just a quick little presentation from your friends. Opening up discussion to the floor. Raise your hands if you have any questions, meaning just email us because we can't see your questions. But I hope this was useful to people to kind of conceptualize with a concrete example. Sometimes it's difficult to speak in abstractions about the economy and healthcare. It is kind of confusing, but like we said, that's on purpose. So hopefully this is kind of a more concrete example of, man, this shit fucking sucks. And we really need to figure out a way to organize and make a better society so we don't have to deal with shit like this, where healthcare is just a human right, where we're not thinking about profit. We're not thinking about how do we keep the hospital system going. It's just we pay for the things we need and we help people. That is the goal. That's a society we probably actually want to live in. So hope this was useful for all of you. Look out for the private equity episode in the future. I don't know if it'll be the next one or what, but that's what we're planning.
Next year.
Next year, 2021, when the virus doesn't exist anymore. That's going to be so
Yay.
Cool. January 1st. Bye, bitch. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah. After I get my vaccination, like, it's all done. Just kissing everyone on the mouth.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't wait. Yeah.
I'm just like licking all the doorknobs.
Mm-hmm.
So excited.
It's gonna be me. It's gonna be like in Dumb and Dumber when he licks the this chairlift when they go skiing and my tongue gets stuck, and I'm willing to accept that punishment. But the reality is I'm gonna be making out with everybody in sight.
That's right.
Apologies to my girlfriend. Just kidding, parody. But I am gonna go around and not wear a mask, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna get the vaccinated tattoo on my forehead, so there's no confusion.
I think I'm just gonna keep wearing the mask because, like, I kind of like the anonymity, and I like feeling like a ninja a little bit.
Well, I don't like it because nobody can see my mustache, and they can't see my aesthetic as well.
That's true.
You know
well, I don't have a beautiful mustache, so I can cover up.
Yeah. Well, not all of us can be as lucky as I. So
this is true.
Well, thank you for joining us. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and not a Happy Holidays, because this is America, and we're happy to celebrate Christ. We're happy to open some gifts in His name. Thank you so much to Jesus Christ for this opportunity to open gifts under the Christmas tree. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We love you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Do your thing in 2021. It's time to do you, okay? 2021 is the year for doing you again. So best of luck to everybody. We'll see you when COVID no longer exists.
Looks like Daddy's bringing home the barbecue. A big sack of McDonald's McRibs sandwiches. Grilled pork and that sassy sauce. Tempting, huh? Like a barbecue in a bun without the bones. And with a big icy Coke, it's, well, you're only human, huh, Daddy? Chomp. The good time, great taste of McDonald's McRib for a limited time, only at McDonald's.